Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we're going to talk about Patreon a little bit. Yeah, I know. I know you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to hear about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. And I hardly ever mention it. I know I mentioned it briefly at the end of my videos. By the way, that's something I've been thinking about. So this is going to be probably a weird question. Oh dear, no, the light's terrible. I'm not even going to bother cutting the fix. I'm just going to put it in. We're relaxing right now. We're being chill. We're having a chill old time. There we go. That's better. I can see you now. No, you can see me. I can't see you. That's not how this works. Anyway, I only talk about Patreon every now and again. I know I mention it at the end of videos, but it tends to be very rushed, and I don't exactly... How do I phrase this? I don't exactly push it on you hard. That's not the way to phrase that. I tend to say things like, there are links all over the video, click them if you like, don't if you don't want to, it's your life, I don't care. Which, let's face it, is not exactly the hard sell. It's not me going, please, please, pretty please, please, click the Patreon thing, please. It's more of a dismissive kind of, do what you like. Now, I do like doing it that way, because I really don't, this is not meant to be insulting to anyone who kind of pushes their Patreon kind of on a consistent and kind of enthusiastic basis, is probably the way to put it. I'm not trying to have a go, I'm not trying to take the piss, I'm not saying that the way they're doing it is wrong, but I do get a little bit eye-rolly when I watch a video and it's like, oh, and guys, please check out my Patreon page. If you could please click the Patreon button and support me every month, that would be great. I really need you. I kind of, even though I do not doubt them, and I'm sure they're correct, and I'm sure that they do need the support, just frankly, just as I do. I'm not saying I don't, because I do just as much as they do. I just don't like saying it. I kind of get a little bit, okay, just tone it down. Now, I'm pretty convinced that I could probably push it a little bit harder, but I don't like to. And I'd prefer to actually just make it so that there is an incentive to do it, in that if you pledge to the Patreon, you get something for it. The only problem with doing that is that I hate the idea of paywalling content. So I've essentially stuck myself in a terrible catch-22 where I would like you to support the channel, support me on Patreon, because, well, advertising revenue is fucking garbage. And I mean, it's garbage for people who are 10 times the size in terms of their channels. So you can only imagine just how garbage it is for me. So, you know, I do want you to support me on Patreon, but at the same time, I don't want to tell you over and over again to support me on Patreon. I would like it so that if you do decide to support me on Patreon, you get something for it, but I also don't want to be that person who's like, you can't afford $1 a month, well, fuck you, you don't get to watch this. Because everyone, most people, at some point go through a stage where it's like, I would really like to do that thing, or to watch that thing, or to buy that thing, and I cannot spare it. And it sucks because I want to, but I just can't. And no one likes being in that position. No one likes being in that situation where it's like, it's not a lot of money, but you still can't spare it. That is a really sucky place to be. And I don't want to make anyone feel bad for that by going, yeah, if you support me on Patreon, you get all of these videos that no one else gets access to, you get access to this, that, and the other, but you are in a position where you can't spare $1 a month, so you don't get it. I just don't like it, and I realise that means that I'm just not cutthroat enough. You know, in a way, I'm just being too soft, because it's like, well, by that logic, you don't go into like a car dealership and go, I can't afford this, but give it to me anyway. You don't do that, and yet that's kind of the way I'm doing things. I don't know. I think, however, I have found a nice balance now. I think I've found a way to do it where I'm happy with it. I feel as though you do get something for supporting on Patreon, but it's not like locked away for everyone else. It's not something where it's like only people who support me get it. Because as I say, I just don't like it. So this is like I've just been rambling for 5 minutes. This is very much a vloggy style thing. It's fine, don't worry about it. So now on Patreon, for a while now we've had like a Thursday update post where every Thursday I'll tell you what's going on, if anything interesting has happened in terms of the channel, sort of what my plan is for the next couple of months, or the next month, or even just the next week. And it's always been open so that if you want to ask any questions, I will answer the questions that you ask. That's how I've done it the last couple of months now. And by and large, we've managed to do a post every Thursday, apart from 2 Thursdays in a row, one where I was ill and one when I was reorganising the office, but we'll ignore that. I think one of those was replaced by a Friday post anyway, but never mind. Now though, I didn't feel like that was enough. I wanted to give more, but I didn't want to deprive other people. So what I've done is I've started doing a Let's Play series on the channel. Now, you won't have seen the Let's Play series yet, because at the moment only people who support me on Patreon have got access to it. Now, that is going to sound like I've just immediately shat on everything I just said, but hear me out. Instead of it being an exclusive thing, instead of it being a Patreon-only thing, it's just a delayed release time. So if you support me on Patreon, you get to see that series a week early. So it's going to be a new episode every week, and if you support me on Patreon, you can have it a week before everyone else. But it will come out a week later. I kind of feel like it's a balance that's more palatable to me. You're still getting something tangible in that you can watch this before people who aren't supporting on Patreon, but at the same time, if you can't support on Patreon, which plenty of people can't, then you'll still be able to watch it. You just got to wait a week, and that's it. And once the first episode goes live on the channel, which it will on Thursday, I mean, you'll still have to wait a week regardless, and it'll just be week after. Like, it'll just roll on. Every single Thursday there'll be a new episode, but you just get the next episode a week early. So if it does well, if people like it, if there's enough uptake from you guys, and it's something that you feel is worth doing and worth having, ow, itch, then I will obviously continue doing it, and I might expand it. So I might do a couple of series of whatever and have those go live on Patreon a week early, but they will always be available for just you guys in general, the public in general, a week after. It depends very much on whether there is any sort of uptake, whether people are actually interested in it. If we hit the first goal for the Patreon page, then I want to do something where I'll take suggestions for stuff to paint or stuff to play, both probably, and that stuff will appear on Patreon a week early as well, but it will still be released to everybody a week later. You can probably tell that it's just something I'm testing. It's just something I'm trying out. It's just something that I'm seeing whether it's worth doing, because I could do with more support on Patreon. I just could. As it is, for the hours I work, I don't exactly get paid a huge amount right now, due to ad revenue just not being great. Luckily, I've not been smashed by demonetization too hard. I haven't really mentioned it very much, but I have had quite a few videos that I've had to have reviewed, which most of them came back okay, but some of them are limited in terms of advertising. Some of them I can't monetize at all, which kind of sucks, but there you go. So yeah, more support on Patreon is always good. It's always helpful. It always enables me to keep doing this. And now, hopefully, there is a bit of a tangible reward for doing so. When I start the next army that I'm planning to start, then there will be more things like photos and progress updates and stuff on Patreon, just because it'll be, Patreon that will help fund that. That's just sort of the way that works. Without Patreon, I wouldn't be able to even consider starting a new army to begin with, so it makes sense to give updates and stuff via that platform. Yeah, I mean, I just felt like we needed to have just a little chat about it, and there's been a lot of and ahhing, but it's because just always struggle with the whole Patreon thing. It's something that is a necessity. I would be lying if I said it wasn't. But at the same time, I don't like talking about it, which is probably dumb, because if you have to talk about it and you need it, then you should. But there you go. I just don't like the subject. I don't think it's icky or weird. It's just not something I'm 100% comfortable with. Yeah, so there you go. There's a new thing on Patreon. You get some videos a week early, everyone else gets them a week later. If you want to support me on Patreon, then you can do. God knows there's links everywhere, and I will continue to mention it, but only in that passing way that I've been doing so, most likely. You know, just making offhand comments at the end of videos, pretty much. Just because I don't want to keep shouting it at you, because I don't like people shouting about it, so why would I do it? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you managed to get through that rambling nonsense of incoherent idiocy, then congratulations. All the stuff to click, as usual, click it if you like. Don't click it if you don't want to, as I say repeatedly. I'll see you for the next one. Toodaloo.